Hello there, welcome back to the show. Today I'm going to talk about Ride with the Devil, which you can see in this lovely Blu-ray from Criterion. It's a Region A, but there's some nice extras in the back. It's a extended version, so it's like 10 minutes longer than the theatrical cut, because the theatrical cut was at 2 hours 20, this is 2 hours 30. But it was really nice to have the longer version, because it does feel short on the longer version. One of those films that those 10 minutes really give you a bit more story that really helps. But this is a film that you may not have heard of, but I highly recommend you getting and watching, because it's a Ang Lee film that he made just before Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He made this pretty much. He'd done Sense and Sensibility, he'd done his Taiwanese films, and Sensibility. He'd done The Ice Storm. Both of them were critically successful. Sense and Sensibility made a lot of money. So he's still in a role, he's still viewed as a good investment, and he made this, which was not a good financial investment. And then he bounced back with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And then he collapsed again with the Hulk. And then he bounced back with Brokeback Mountain. He just seemed to go up and down, up and down. And funnily enough, I like his bombs more than I like his successes. But this is my favourite Ang Lee film. You know, I'm a big Hulk fan actually, but I like this one a little bit more. It stars Tobey Maguire, who's going to be in my next video as well. And Jeffrey Wright. They're the two actors. Now you have other actors on the cover saying, on the poster saying they're in this. Keith Ulrich is in this. And he was promoted as one of the stars of the film, even though he's only in for the first half of the film. Simon Baker's in it as well, who was not a big name, but he became bigger on TV later. And he's a big part in it as well, so you expect he's going to be important. He doesn't last much either. James Caviezel's in it as well, but again, he's there for a little bit. But essentially, it's Tobey Maguire and Jeffrey Wright. They're the leads of the film. Everyone else is in it for a time, and then they're gone. Mark Ruffalo's in it for a little bit. Jewel, the singer, is in it for quite a bit actually, but she kind of pops in and out until her character really comes into focus in the last third of the film. Ultimately, I mean, from the middle section to the last third of the film, she becomes much more important to the film. But at the early point, not really. So there's lots of actors throughout it. You'll be watching the film going, oh, that's that person. That's that person. It's like, it's well cast. So a lot of these actors weren't that big at the time. Tom Wilkinson shows up, and this was before he became known as a really good character actor in America. This was still when he was like, I think he'd done the full Monty at that point, maybe. But it was before he became an actor who was in a lot of American films. And you know, it's just, you'll see a lot of faces you recognise from other films. Because Ang Lee was good at casting. The casting people are really good in this. And it is an epic film, but it also comes back always to these two characters. So, Tobey Maguire, who was in The Ice Storm the year or two before for him, and now is in this one. He plays a guy, this kid, who basically is in the South during the Civil War. Civil War starts, and he feels he should... It's because he's called Dutchy, because his family are immigrants. They're saying you could just hide out and not fight this fight because it's nothing to do with you ultimately. It's between the North and the South. But because the father of Keith Ulrich was killed, and that guy helped bring him up essentially, because his own father was working all the time because his own father was poorer, he feels obliged to fight for revenge for this guy's death. And he's like loyal to his friend. So they end up joining the Bushwhackers, who are basically a guerrilla outfit. They're not the regular army, but what they do is when the North comes down into the area, they're the ones who fight them and take them out one by one, guerrilla style. So they're really hated by the North. The North really hate them. They know who they all are, and they're all wanted because it's like, you're fighting dirty to us. And it's really about them in the Bushwhackers for the first half of the movie. Is like, how did they get there and what it is. And what it is basically, they're fighting for the South, but they all have different motivations. Some of them are fighting, like John Rhys Meyers plays this kind of long-haired weirdo guy who's in it for the fight more than the cause. He says he's in it for the cause, and he acts offended if you see maybe just be in it for the blood, but he really isn't in it for the blood. And he's dangerous. He doesn't like Tobey Maguire's character like at all. He does not like him. He calls him Dutchy, and he does not like him, and that becomes a thing that goes through the whole film. Is Maguire has to always be an eye out for this guy because this guy could shoot him. You also have Simon Baker as this southern guy, rich guy, who has Jeffrey Wright as his friend. Jeffrey Wright's obviously black, and he's not a slave though. He's been freed, but he still fights with the South because he's loyal to this guy. And it's a weird paradigm of like he feels loyalty to him, but he's fighting against his own interests. And it's not something that a massive speech is about. It's more about character build up. And the interesting thing about the film is within the groups, basically Jeffrey Wright's kind of subordinate to Simon Baker and Tobey Maguire's subordinate to Skeet Ulrich, because those two guys were from the richer houses. And these two guys are more working class, like survivors of they don't really have anything. And they two kind of bond because they're the ones who are left behind whenever they have to go and hide out during the winter because there's not much you can do in the fighting during the winter. And they get left behind because Simon Baker goes off to with his other family at a certain point, and Skeet Ulrich meets Jewel and he's seducing her. So they're stuck in this basically this horrible place together, and they just start to get on and start to become fond of each other because they're not really zealots for this cause. It's like they both are in it for reasons that they don't quite understand, and they both are kind of trapped there. And by decisions they've made in the past that they maybe not have made now, but they wouldn't probably never admit to it though. And that's what's good about the film is its characters are inarticulate in lots of ways, who are struggling for the words to find it, to express what they feel. And like Tobey Maguire's character is very young. Ultimately, he's much younger than he appears, and he has bratty moments, which Maguire plays up. Actually, like he doesn't really mind playing the brat sometimes, and showing yeah, this kid needs to grow up, and says things that are inappropriate, but he's also a decent guy. It's just frustration, and slowly you sense Jeffrey Wright's character is teaching him how to grow up a little bit, and saying you can't really do that. But I mean, without even saying that, because he can't say that because of social circles, but he can suggest things quietly with subtlety. Maguire actually smart enough to pick up on and say, "Oh yeah, I should have done that." And slowly, all the characters who are above them are quietly knocked off one by one by the war. Now, the sense of the war's going on for a long time, and people are dying, and you do get a sense of old friendships don't last. Like Martin Ruffalo plays a guy who was friendly with Maguire and Ulrich's family early on, before the war started. I mean, there was some tensions because they were more northern and other people were more southern. But they never had any issues. They kept on having issues. And when he gets caught by the bushwhackers, Maguire says send him away and give him a message to say we'll trade prisoners. And Ruffalo goes away and kills Maguire's father directly, and that's a lesson learned, and it's pretty brutal. And it's a sense of this world has gotten so brutal that people who were friends are mortal enemies now. And it's not just like the cliche of it, it's like they mean business, they really destroy you. And the film, because it plays the characters very carefully and actually makes them very human, when that stuff happens, it's brutal because they're not playing it like a comic book, they're playing it like this is what happens. This is what happens in war. It's brutal. And that's why I like the longer verse a bit more, because those moments get to play a little bit longer in certain bits. And the sense of when they go to attack someplace, it lasts a bit longer, you see a bit more detail of the insanity going on. Because the second half of the film is essentially about the realization they're going to lose the war. Like, Maguire and Wright are both wanted, and they're starting to realize they're going to lose this war. There's no way they're going to win it. They end up going to this with the bushwhackers. There's one final raid after, after the winter. There's one final raid. At this point, Skeet Ulrich is dead. So Maguire doesn't have any friends, and Simon Baker's become a drunk, so he's not well respected. But they go and do this attack in a town, and at this point, this burns them out. It's a sense of this is like, what's the point of this? There's no tactic. It's just people killing other people who are just, people trying to survive the war. So there's no way to survive this war even as a normal person because these idiots are taking their anger out on farmers because they know their life's screwed. So let's kill as many people as possible, and it becomes this devolution or whatever cause they had. So only the most vicious survive. And the other ones are just left wondering, why did I fight in the first place? But also, this film shows, like, even the handful that probably killed because of these lunatics. So it becomes a really interesting story about the war and what happens in a war, rather than what you'd like to think romantically what happens in a war. So Maguire gets injured, and as he recovers, that's when him and Jules' characters start to bond a lot more. And everyone knows that he's not going back. He's not going back to the war. He's done. And it's also, it's like she needs a husband. So he's kind of forced into a marriage. But it's actually, everyone's telling him, like, you need this. Like, you have no future here. You need this. She likes you. And you're good for each other. You need this. And because he's like, at the earlier parts, he does not want to get married, in the early parts of the film. He's not interested in, like, settling down. He thinks it's a prison. And by the end of it, people are just trying to tell him, like, you need this. This is what's good for your development, good for your future. At this point, it's a baby because Richie's had got Joe's character pregnant. And even though it's not his baby, he ends up helping take care of it and get married and Joel. And they realise they have to move away from the south because he's wanted. He'll get caught. So they sneak out the south and they're heading west and hope to survive. They run into Johnson Rhys Meyers again, but it does not lead to bloodshed. But you can sense that Meyers has run out of space too, and he's going to go and pick a fight to get shot. Like, he's done too. And it ends up in the sense of Jeffrey Wright's going to go and off and do his thing, and Maguire's going to sit down with a family. In the sense of they've survived the war, but they're very damaged by it, but they've survived it with their humanity intact. They may have been on the wrong side, they may have done everything wrong, but they have survived. It's a film about humanity within war, and it's like, people don't always make the right decisions. People make bad decisions. It doesn't mean they're horrible people. And just because someone's on the right side, doesn't mean they make good decisions all the time either. And it's about the complexity of war and the complexity of human beings within a war. As you realise that the romantic notion doesn't work, you're in a ditch for most of the time, people are dying left and right, and you can die by one shot can kill you, even if it doesn't hit you anywhere seemingly important. You might still bleed out from it. And a sense of violence can lead to really horrible situations. That's what this film has. So yeah, it came out, the studio dumped it, it was barely released. They saw it and it was like, we do not want this film at all. And I remember it being released and it was like, it's hard to find. I saw it in DVD because there was no way to find it. Like in the cinema over here in Britain. I don't even know it was released in Britain. If it was released in like 2 cinemas or something. It was not massively released. So I had to find it in DVD. And then it was the DVD for decades at that point. Before we finally got the Criterion edition. So yeah, it's like it's a film that's been buried, but it didn't deserve to. It's a wonderful film, so I urge you to go see it. It is just great. Right, hope you enjoyed this video. That's me for now. Right, bye.